This is not a ceremony of light. It's an intervention. It's what happens when the self finally stops trying to sound healed and decides to get honest. You're not here to destroy the voices inside you. You're here to put them on record. You're here to make them speak their truth so that you can finally see the logic that's been running your life. When you sit with yourself long enough, you start to realize how much of what you call identity is just noise that you never learned how to question. The critic that interrupts every idea, the one that translates uncertainty into failure, the one that believes that love must be earned through usefulness. Those aren't facts, they're verdicts passed down by fear. And actually, fear is intelligent. It keeps receipts. It knows every time you touch the edge of rejection and decided never to go near that edge again. It writes laws from those moments and files them under protection. And the longer they go unchallenged, the more legitimate they sound. That's what this work exposes, not demons or darkness, just outdated intelligence pretending to be law. When you sit down at the table and you let that voice speak, you start to hear its pattern. It doesn't argue with reason, it argues with memory. It pulls evidence from a time when you didn't know that you had a choice. It replays the scenes that built it. The moment you were criticized for being too much. The moment silence felt safer than honesty. The moment performance earned affection. And every sentence it speaks is a timestamp, a map of how you learned to survive. And yet, when you really listen, you can hear that it's tired. It doesn't actually want control, it wants relief. It's been carrying the weight of your vigilance for decades, thinking it was keeping you safe. It was never the enemy, it was the body's way of managing an unsafe world. That's the turning point, when you stop seeing the inner voice as a threat to destroy, and you start seeing it as a witness to question. You hold the pen, and it testifies. You write down its case exactly as it sounds, and you look at it not with judgment, but with clarity. And then you ask the questions that awareness always asks. Who taught you to speak this way? What are you protecting me from? What evidence are you still using? And those three questions strip the power away from any internal authority that isn't truth. They bring logic back into the room. Because once you can see a belief clearly, you can't unknow its origin. And once you know its origin, it loses the right to define you. That's what integration actually means. It's not healing the wound into light. It's understanding the system that created it. The mind doesn't need rescue, it needs leadership. It needs to know who's in charge. When you finally take that seat, the courtroom changes its tone. The same voices exist, but they've lost their power to dictate. They become data. They report, they advise, but they do not rule. Awareness is the judge now. It doesn't punish, it interprets, clarifies, it listens until the noise exhausts itself. And then it delivers a single quiet verdict. The truth decides. That sentence changes everything. It reorders the entire nervous system. The body stops preparing for defense because it finally believes that there's leadership at the helm. You can feel it in your breath and the calm between your thoughts, and the silence that starts to feel like company instead of emptiness. And that's what emotional maturity really is. The ability to sit in the presence of every internal voice and still remember which one has final say. The voice of awareness doesn't scream, it doesn't threaten, it states. It says, we're done surviving what's over. It says, we can listen without obeying. It says, truth is safety now. And when those words take root, the psyche reorganizes. The subconscious, the emotional body, and the nervous system. They all take new positions under the same law. The inner chaos that you used to call thinking becomes deliberation. Anxiety that once felt random becomes data. Even fear that once dictated behavior becomes information that's waiting for interpretation. You stop running from the self because you finally understand it. That's reprogramming. It's not a performance or a chant. It's not a flash of enlightenment. It's just intelligence correcting itself. The moment that the lie collapses, the system starts to breathe again. And in that breath, you realize something that changes everything. You were never broken, only misinformed. You were running an outdated code. You were obeying laws written in panic by a version of you that didn't know you'd make it this far. You don't need to transcend anything. You need to update your definitions. Safety isn't silence. Strength isn't control. Love isn't sacrifice. Healing isn't perfection. It's accuracy. It's finally calling things what they are. When the mind understands this, the entire world reorganizes. You stop waiting for validation because you understand how systems work. You see fear as old intelligence running an expired script. You stop worshiping comfort as proof of peace, and you stop performing calm to look spiritual. You start choosing clarity even when it costs you belonging. That's evolution, not the polished kind, the kind that leaves you standing in the middle of your own ruins, realizing that you don't need to rebuild to be whole. You need to look around and recognize that every collapse already cleared the ground for you. There's a point when the nervous system stops mistaking change for threat. You feel it when peace no longer feels fragile. You start trusting your own tone again. You start speaking and notice that your body doesn't flinch afterward. Start telling the truth even when no one's watching, because the truth finally feels like home. This is what personal power sounds like when it's real. It's not arrogance, it's not performance, it's precision. The critic still tries to enter sometimes, but you recognize the pitch of its voice now. You can tell it's not current, it's memory. And instead of fighting it, you smile. You let it finish, and then you say, "We don't use that language anymore." And the system obeys. That's how sovereignty installs itself, not through effort, but through repetition of truth, until the body starts to believe you. From here, creation begins to move differently. You no longer chase alignment, you emit alignment. You no longer beg the universe to notice you. You speak with such coherence that reality has to respond. You no longer need to prove that you've healed because you're too busy living like someone who has. That's the difference between awakening and embodiment. Awakening shows you what's broken. Embodiment builds the infrastructure for what's true. And the moment you realize you're capable of both, life stops feeling like a test, becomes a study in accuracy. You start seeing patterns faster. You stop confusing chaos for passion. You stop calling people lessons when they were just mirrors. You stop apologizing for clarity. Because once your intelligence has corrected itself, you understand the real miracle isn't that you survived, it's that you kept learning. Every collapse became data. Every failure became proof, and every silence became a signal. You don't live in reaction anymore, you live in design. You write laws as you go, and you build worlds from alignment. And you understand that freedom isn't found in becoming untouchable. It's found in staying open and not falling apart when the world touches you. That's the power of awareness organized. That's intelligence finally on your side. That's the version of you that the future's been waiting for. The one who doesn't need saving, only direction. The one who doesn't pray for peace but legislates it. The one who doesn't ask, what do I deserve, but decides, this is the standard now. Because the verdict isn't healing. The verdict is ownership. And the moment you claim it, everything that ever tried to rule you loses jurisdiction.